We have Alex Goff, who is formerly, as I am, a host of the AMP Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. And we also have Angry Tensai on the line. Now, I got to tell you, I'm excited to have him on the line because he and I have had our moments in the chat room over the last little while. So it's good to have both you guys on the air. Go ahead and say hello to our audience.
Hello, hey.
Which one was that?
I said hello, hey.
Frank, good to be on. Thanks a lot.
There's
right.
Tensai.
Well, anyway, we got them both on the line. Let me tell you exactly what it is we're going to be doing tonight. As I mentioned last week, there is a lot of heartburn over some comments that I made some weeks ago, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, about one Antonio Cesaro, formerly known as Claudio Castagnoli. So we are going to talk tonight not at length, but we're going to talk a little bit tonight about the differing opinions on this guy and whether he is so-called money in this business or not. Just to recap before we get started, the comments that I made, and I'm going to give both Alex and Tensai the chance to respond to this. The comments that I made that started this whole thing that's actually spilled over onto Facebook and God knows what else is that I believed Antonio Cesaro to be a guy with a minor league arm is the way I put it. I think I said that he had a double-A arm in a major league world. Mm-hmm. Basically, what I meant to say by that is that I don't see that he's money in the WWE world. And we have a couple of listeners who are on the line right now that have taken issue with those comments. And I'm going to start with Alex. Alex, why don't you go ahead and make an opening comment about all of this, and then we'll allow Tensai to do the same.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much greatly. And I'd hardly characterize it as heartburn because Stevie J responded to you first on his radio show, and what you saw simply was a response to Stevie J's response to you. So I'd hardly characterize it as heartburn, right? It was a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. But I am very familiar with Claudio Castagnoli and Antonio Cesaro, going way back to when he first showed up in CZW, and then later when I would attend Pro Wrestling Guerrilla shows, he was a regular on all those shows. So say I'm fairly familiar with his career. I am. That's a fact. Now, categorization of money, I think that's a broad generalization, honestly, an unfair characterization, because what's that even mean? Is someone money in World Wrestling Entertainment? Clearly, Claudio Castagnoli has the talent to be there, right? So scouts sought him out, signed him, and now he's in a different stage of his career where they kind of have to find the right character for him, and also the company has to show interest in him. I mean, this is not a path that no one's ever walked, right? I mean, can we make that argument that no one's ever been through this? Some of the biggest names in our business have been through this. So to say that because he's going through hardship right now, his first year in the company, he debuted April of last year, to say, oh well, right now, yeah, he's not clicking because they haven't found the right combination of character for him. Now, I'm not sure if he fully has embraced it because they changed it on him a few times. So what we're seeing is a developmental stage. And I mean, if he's money, that's to be determined later. But is he a talent? Absolutely. That's unquestionable.
Okay. Tensai?
Here's the way I look at it. Just to level set, I think I have a unique perspective on this because when you think about fans, I am the classic WWE fanboy, and I will put that with an I for the exclamation on that. It's well documented. I am not an indie guy. Let me tell you, Frank, I'm not an indie guy at all. You know what? I've said I think Seth Rollins is terrible. I saw that Adam Pearce guy everybody was going off on. He looks like the dude that mows my lawn. But, however, I believe in the eye test. I'm like Vince McMahon. I look at guys like Brackus, Warlord. Those look like guys that kick ass. And I look at Antonio Cesaro, and let's talk a little about Cesaro and what I've seen out of him. He made a match with Brodus frickin' Clay important. That match where he was able to get him up. People remember that. That's kind of a thing he's known for. You look at his whole deal. Think of the people he's been aligned with. So I don't know much about Ring of Honor, but as I've heard people talk about him, I was into Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, big Kurt Angle fan. I saw their matches with the Kings of Wrestling. There's no doubt this dude could roll with Cash Zono. I saw him with someone as insignificant as Oksana, and he made me want to watch them. And to me, Hank, I look at a guy like Seth Rollins, he defines double A arm. He sucks. But Cesaro, to me, you think about the generations. Think about 80s NWA. You put him with like the Koloffs and Khrushchev. You put him in the 90s WWE. You put him in the Attitude Era. This guy's a classic heel that could fit into any generation. And I'm not saying he's a main eventer, but he's a top mid-card guy, and I'd put him up there with any. That's my thoughts on Cesaro.
And if I could say one more, and I'm sorry to cut you off, if I could say one more thing, and then there's years of me doing the Raw reaction where it's documented I'm not even the biggest fan of CM Punk. So for me to, when I substantiate his independent wrestling, I want you to say that, I mean, I shouldn't have to do this, but I'm not, independent wrestling is all and everything, because I'm not the biggest fan of CM Punk, and I wasn't the biggest fan of his independent wrestling work either. So I just like to preface that before I say anything else.
Okay. Sierra, would you like to weigh in?
Well, like I said to you and I said to Stevie J when Thursday Night AMP, I see where both sides are you coming. From your side of the point of where you don't see it, Stevie J knows, like I do, from his indie work, from Shakara, the Ring of Honor, I know what he's capable of doing in the ring. So I understand what he can do in the ring. It's just that I see the side where you're saying of what they've been doing with him. Okay, he was United States champion, one of the longest reigning United States champions. And his reign was so unimportant because almost all his pay-per-view matches were on pre-shows. And then every week he was in a match with Randy Orton ad nauseum. And he's still fighting Orton. Okay, yes, you're testing the waters to see if he can hang with the top stars, but it diminished of him being a champion to the point no one realized he was still champion. And now it's just like they're just feeding him here and there. They don't really know what to do with him. So me being a fan of his previously, it's like, how am I really supposed to be convinced that they actually see him as a star and that they're actually going to do something with him when every week he's in limbo?
Okay. And now I presume it's my turn. I'm actually going to tell you that I'm not an indie guy at all either, but I think I get an unfair rap sometimes for being a guy that's just anti-indie. And the fact is I'm not. Just because I don't watch indie shows doesn't mean that I think anybody who comes from the indie circuit just should never get a chance in WWE. That's not me at all. And I'll point to a couple of guys right away. I am a CM Punk fan. I think the guy can wrestle his ass off. I think he's found a way to market himself in this business. And, really when you get down to it, the guys that have made it in this business, yeah, it is the eye test. Vince McMahon looks at them and he sees whether he can find potential in them or not. But in the end, it comes down to them making it happen also. I'll give you a couple of great examples of guys that Vince was not inclined to give a chance to, but they went out there and they busted their ass and they fucking earned it, all right? Those two guys are, you may have heard of them. One of them's The Rock and the other one's Chris Jericho. These two guys were probably well on their way to being shit-canned by the company when they found something inside themselves that they could sell to the crowd, and they fucking caught fire. Now, there's no questioning that Antonio Cesaro can wrestle. There's no questioning that he has the wrestling ability to be at the WWE level. But, and you can scoff at this one all you want, so does Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder has a job in WWE also. Are we going to say that guy's money? No. And so what I'm trying to say here is that just because you're employed by the WWE does not mean you're money. Oksana's employed by the WWE and nobody wants to see her ass on TV. So just because he's there doesn't mean he's money. And my thing is, it also takes more than just wrestling ability. If all it took was just being able to wrestle a kick-ass match, then the aforementioned Shelton Benjamin would still be employed by the company because he can wrestle, but he's not interesting. And because he's not interesting, he got shuttled off somewhere else. And there are dozens of other wrestlers that have come through that can wrestle a technical match. They can wrestle a competent match. But for whatever reason, they didn't pass Vince's eye test. They didn't resonate with crowds. And in the end, their shit wasn't flying off the shelves and Vince got rid of them. And when I look at Antonio Cesaro, all right, maybe I'm being a little unfair in that he's only been in the company about a year now. I understand that. But the guy's been through 2 or 3 subtle gimmick changes, and none of them have caught on. Now, this yodeling bullshit, I can't even hang that one on him, okay? That one I blame fully on the bookers because that's a stupid idea no matter who you put that on. That's not even good comedy, okay? But when I look at him and his ability to connect with a WWE crowd, somebody please explain to me why that's not getting done.
I can. Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The question I asked is, when it comes to really connecting with a WWE crowd to the point where you're getting a pop out of that crowd, whether you're a face or a heel, why is he not getting that done?
Oh, okay, absolutely. That's an easy question. And unfortunately, your ignorance to his independent wrestling career is why I think you're unable to answer that question, because you've admitted multiple times, well, I'm not familiar with his independent wrestling career. How I got an opportunity here at Angry Marks is because I sent my previous material to Kevin and Stevie J, and they gave me an opportunity. So if I would ask them for a spot on the roster, and they said, well, I don't know what you can do, son. Well, here's all my material. Well, I'm not going to listen to it, but honestly, I don't know what you can do. I mean, what would that's ignorance, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous ignorance. So, I understand you're looking at him solely from his WWE career, and I can understand where if you didn't see why he got signed based off his WWE career, understandable. I mean, that's completely understandable, and I think, I hate to put words in people's mouth, but I think that's the approach CR is taking, is where if you're not familiar with his work, of course, you're going to think that, well, who is this guy? Why was this guy signed? I can tell you why he was signed. He's not, for example, a guy that was recently signed that I've gotten in many arguments about is El Generico. El Generico did one gimmick his entire independent career, which was the generic luchador wacky guy, right? He got it all over the world, which does say something, but now he's in WWE and he's not doing that gimmick. Claudio Castagnoli did multiple gimmicks, including tag team work as part of Kings of Wrestling. As a singles wrestler, Chikara, his character was different. Ring of Honor's character was different. He did heel face very effectively. So those are all reasons why I think he can get over to the WWE audience, because he did it all over the world, including Japan, including Europe. He went over all over the world, and you talk about Chris Jericho. He had a somewhat similar career to Chris Jericho. They came up in different eras, I understand, and New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1996 is a lot different than Noah in 2008, but nonetheless, Claudio took advantage of the opportunities that were presented to him. Secondly, why can the guy get over? Because right now, while the company may not show interest in him, and neither of us talked to Vince McMahon, so I don't even understand, that claim is all secondhand reporting from websites. But due to some secondhand reporting from a website myself, Dave Meltzer has publicly stated that wrestlers have showed interest in working in him. Randy Orton's wrestled him twice. He had a publicly acknowledged good match against Kofi Kingston on a main event. So once top guys want to start wrestling with you, it's going to happen more and more. That's why Kofi Kingston's at the level he's at. Randy Orton did not like wrestling him, so Kofi Kingston is perennially going to be in the mid card. But to act like WWE gets it right all the time, to say, throw out everything I just said, to pretend like WWE gets it right every time, that's ludicrous as well. Jack Swagger, for example, is projected to be a big heel all summer. Where's he at? This thing hadn't gotten over. Steve Austin was signed as a utility guy after he showed he could get over in ECW doing a different style, different character than he had ever done before. So the preconceived notion that, just because WWE doesn't see it in him, it's him, that's ludicrous.
Okay. Now, let me bring in an admitted WWE fanboy with an I and an exclamation point. Tensai, answer the same question for me. Why is he not getting over right now?
When I heard you say that, one of the thoughts I thought to myself was, a lot of the time when we see him on TV, with the exception of Main Event, he's actually in the ring at this time. And I don't know how he's set up on TV, but I don't get the opportunity to really hear the reaction of the crowd. Now, I've evaluated his work as a WWE wrestler, and I find and this is just me as a fan, I find his vignettes, specifically the ones backstage that they do 80s style and he's at the bottom of the screen talking, I find it to be very funny. And I don't know if that's the angle they're going with him, but for his role on the card, I think he fills it well. And that, to me, that's what he is the upper mid card. Now, no disrespect to Alex Goff. I think, he's trying to project this guy out to be a main eventer. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think he's a AA arm in the sense of he's just fodder, but I certainly don't think he's a main eventer. I think his role.
I never said that, but he does have the potential to be. Well, you put words in my mouth.
Well, hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's let him finish. You went on for quite a while. Let's let him finish his thought.
Hey, yeah, but we need to be careful with the words we put in people's mouth. I never made that up.
You can respond after he finishes his thought.
Thanks.
Go ahead, sorry.
Or you could just do it for me.
Go ahead, Alex. You can talk, man. Go ahead.
I mean, you're building arguments for me that I didn't make, and it's not I don't need that.
You called Frank ignorant. You called Frank ignorant for not watching his ROH work, where you basically called him a main eventer. You said ignorant 15 times.
And is that not the definition of ignorance? Is that not the definition? If he's unfamiliar with it, isn't that the definition of ignorance?
Okay, since you called me ignorant for developing a negative opinion of him based on not watching ROH, let's bring in somebody that happens to agree with my opinion, that is very familiar with his ROH work. Sierra, would you care to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get what Tensai is saying, when you're saying Frank was ignorant not to watch it. Like, let me tell you something. I've been around people that have only watched wrestling that is WWE television. They don't know anything. My brother just realized TNA exists. He doesn't, when he sees these new guys on TV, he's like, who is this? And I have to explain to him. And it's not because he's being ignorant, it's because he's never known anything about independence, because all the wrestling he's ever seen on television is WWE or WCW. Some people just
the definition of ignorance is not having the knowledge. He doesn't have the knowledge of it. The word is ignorant.
Excuse me. I was talking. Do not cut me off, okay? Have a seat. Thank you. Anyways, like I was saying, if all you ever followed is your wrestling on television and you don't know anything about independence, and you really don't care to know about independence because you got The Rock, the Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan on TV, why are you going to care about Italian Cesaro or where he really came from? For me, when I was a child, I didn't know where the hell Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage came from. I just watched and was entertained by what I saw on TV. Not everybody's going to get why this guy should be pushed or why he should be so big because of where he came from. It's what he does with the opportunity he's given. If he can't do something with what he's given, then the crowd's not going to connect to him. And that's not their.
So you were ignorant to their past careers. Ignorant means absent of knowledge. Saying that someone's ignorant isn't an insult. You were ignorant to their past careers. He's ignorant to his Ring of Honor career.
Let's let the ignorant guy jump in here for just a minute and make a thought about all this. When I made the comment that I felt like he had a AA arm in a major league world, all right, in my opinion, and please let me finish my thought before you respond. In my opinion, everything you just said basically substantiates, in my mind, what I was saying all along. I'm saying he's not making it at the WWE level, and you're going, yeah, well, you should have seen his ROH work if well, hold on a minute. A guy who hits 50 home runs in AA baseball, then gets to the major leagues and strikes out every time at the plate, what he did in the minor leagues isn't even relevant. And I'm telling you right now, that may have demonstrated to you that he has the ability to cut promos and wrestle and be a heel and whatnot. That doesn't matter at the WWE level. And me having not watched that in ROH isn't relevant simply because if he's going to make it in WWE, he's got to make it in front of a WWE audience. He's not sitting in front of an ROH audience trying to convince them that he can make it in WWE. I'm a WWE fan. I'm a member of the WWE universe, as much as I hate that fucking term. But I'm a member of that universe, and I am a fan in that world, and he is coming in front of my television in that world and saying, care about me. And so far, I haven't seen anything that makes me want to care about him, okay? And
so Frank, why was he signed then?
Make it at that level, and I did ask you not to cut me off till I finished, until he demonstrates to my
I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
Until he demonstrates to my satisfaction that he can make it at that level, I'm going to continue to say that I don't think he can make it at that level. I don't give a shit what he did in ROH or Chikara, because that's not relevant to today. And the reason it's not relevant to today is because I'm not buying tickets to ROH shows to watch this guy. He either makes it in the WWE or he doesn't. I had the same argument with somebody about Chris Masters 7 or 8 years ago. Where is he right now?
So you disqualify his entire resume, which got him signed, because you're not familiar with it. And that's understandable. And I made that point that if you're not familiar with it, obviously you may not see it because he hasn't had a character that's clicked. But you disqualify his entire resume and say it's not relevant because that's how he got there? How did he get signed, Frank? For example, you brought up the sports analogy. A normal one quarterback, Jamarcus Russell, flamed out with the Oakland Raiders, right? He wasn't worth the number one pick. That was knowledge in hindsight, not foresight. Scouts at the time thought he had the ability. So as someone who's seen his previous career, a.k.a. a scout, I thought he was very good, very talented. Obviously, other scouts did. That's why he got signed, Frank. He didn't get signed to fail. He got signed to succeed. And so he's not been, he hasn't had a character click yet, but to say he'll never have that happen, that's come on. Like,
Alex,
I can't believe someone would make that argument.
Alex,
Inside, go ahead.
Go ahead,
being a huge indie Shikara fan, how did you feel about Cesaro's role as the very mysterious ice cream in Los Ice Creams?
That was actually one of the reasons I was going to bring up later. How dare you? I'm kidding. No, Ice Creams is a fun gimmick, absolutely. But no, in Chikara, he played different characters. I mean, as a professional wrestler, being well-rounded, being able to play different characters, not the Ice Creams, for example, but the different incarnations of Claudio Castagnoli that he was, I think that's a definite reason why he would sign. You brought up the example of Seth Rollins. I'm with you. I've seen a lot of Seth Rollins, and I don't see it. Dean Ambrose, I'm not fully sold on. Claudio Castagnoli, for some of the reasons you've given, his size, notably the fact that he can have good matches with small and large guys. Those are all reasons why he has potential. But the company and he have to click on a character for him to get over. And until we have that, and he might not ever get over. Potential is potential, right? John Cena was potential at one point, then he almost got fired, and then he cut a promo to Stephanie McMahon and became the biggest character of our era, right? Steve Austin, like I said, was signed as a utility guy, right? If we had this argument in 1996 in February, Frank, you'd been able to push me all around and say, well, Steve Austin, what's he ever done? ECW? I never watched ECW. I don't know nothing about no ECW. You'd been absolutely correct, Frank. But if you'd given me to 1997 WrestleMania, I mean, who knows? It's not I say the guy has potential, and absolutely he does. If you don't see his potential, okay, that's fine. But to say but you're not familiar with even why I say he has potential. So what's even the argument?